11.
That's it. Hey, thanks for attending. Ray Rogozinski, City Bristol, Chairman. I guess roll call vote. Roll call. Who else is here?
Jim Sonia,
Thomaston.
Thomas, okay. Beacon Falls, Bethlehem, Bristol, yes, Cheshire, Derby, Middlebury, Naugatuck,
Jim Stewart here.
Yeah, Naugatuck's here.
Oxford, Plymouth, Prospect, Seymour,
Here.
Shelton,
Here.
Seymour's here.
Seymour here.
Shel- Okay, Shelton, Southbury, Watertown,
Very scared.
Waterbury, Wolcott, Woodbury.
And I believe Oxford is here.
I checked Oxford.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we can do the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody from the public? Their public comment period? Anybody online?
And I just want to briefly mention that we do also have Pam Sicato from the Connecticut Department of Transportation here.
And thanks for being here.
Blake
Morning.
Leonard here from Southbury also.
The approval of meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Southbury?
What's his
Jim
name?
Stewart,
Second, Thomaston.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. The transportation planning, lots of financial plan update, Rich?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Just a quick update on where we stand with the program as of the end of last month. We've got 13 completed projects now, as well as 9 under construction. Combined, that is just about 60 million in total projects, 132 million in the program altogether. And Rich, if you'll go to the next slide. So we are excited to say we are rapidly approaching having spent our region's full allocation, sometime likely in the not next calendar year, but the next fiscal year. We'll get pretty close. We've been talking about this for a while, but we're still not 100% sure exactly what how the department will handle it when we have projects come in that are ready to go. And we fully allocated the region's fully obligated the region's allocation. But either way, we know that delays and cost changes can impact the schedule, and obviously this graph is subject to change. And so we'd still like to encourage towns to be putting project ideas together and bringing us applications. We know the Lots Up unit at the department has been very excited about spending the amount of money that has been allocated by the legislature to them for this program, and so we're happy to be the first to get there.
And Rich, I would also mention, we are working with the department on trying to close out the projects that have been completed, because of most of them. Because the way the program works, where you get the low bid plus 20% for incidentals and contingencies. Most projects are coming in at a lower cost than what we've already allocated. So that money right now is just sitting with the towns, and we're trying to work with the department to get that money back, reinvested into the program. So hopefully, as we come close to our limit, some of that money will be coming back into the program and also help, alleviate any concerns.
yeah,
This chart does not show it, but there's just about 5 million in unspent project funds within our towns at this time. And so that 5 million is easily at least one or two more projects, and we are, it'll be nice to have that returned back into the full pot. I'm sorry, Karen.
That's okay. I don't know if it was the last meeting or the one before. I sent out a memo explaining what they're looking for regarding the accounting to get the closeout moving. So if anybody needs that again, I can, send it out. But yeah, we'd like to get some of these closed out and through the, if there's ever gonna be an audit, the audit process, because we really don't know how intensely they're gonna scrutinize these during the audit, and it would be nice to have some of that feedback so that we can plan accordingly going forward.
Any questions on financial plan update? If not, moving on to lots of estimate prices.
Yeah, this is on the agenda because we had a big project recently that went out to bid and and there were 5 bidders. But the low bid was significantly over the engineer's estimate. I think it was over 25% over. So that, that was, I think we were all kind of blindsided by that, and because of that, we couldn't just, sign off and send our recommendation up to DOT to award it. And it was because of the unit prices that were used on the engineer's estimate were outdated, and as you can imagine, with inflation and everything, these prices have been increasing pretty rapidly over the last year or two. So just going forward, just letting everyone know that we're gonna be paying really close attention to that, and when you talk to your engineers or if you're doing work in-house, to make sure you're looking at the most current unit prices. DOT publishes unit prices, and I also keep a record of all of the projects that have been bid. And so if anyone needs current information, I can send that around.
The project that went over, what type of project was that and where was it?
It was Rubber Avenue in Naugatuck.
So that was like road reconstruction and sidewalk work?
Yeah,
And they also
and
had
some
a
streetscape
roundabout.
elements.
And so it's a substantial project. But when Karen did her analysis, it mainly was just unit costs have gone up between the time the engineer put together their estimate and actually went out to bid. That's sort of.
Right, and to be honest, because of the roundabout and the DOT was heavily involved, because that's a state it intersects with a state road where the roundabout's going. I just assumed that they were checking very carefully when these things, it's been reviewed by the state numerous times, the plans, the estimate, everything. So I didn't check carefully, but now, my bad, so I'm gonna be paying closer attention to that.
Now, who was the low bidder?
B&W, Jim, is that right? B&W paving.
That's correct.
Any questions on lots of estimate prices? Just moving on, parking study?
Yeah, so just a quick update here. Unfortunately, Tayo is not feeling well today, so he wasn't able to make it into the meeting. But you'll be hearing from Savannah Nicole, I believe, a little bit later today about some of the work that her new community planning department is going to be taking on for the region. And so one of the things that she's working on is a region-wide TOD study that intends to make suggestions and model regulations for ways that towns can better encourage development around their transportation assets. And so one of the ways that our team is assisting with this is through a review of municipal and residential parking utilization rates. And so I believe many of you, or at least those who will be in the first round of this study, will have heard from Tayo already. He is in the process right now of gathering data, and then we'll be doing municipal parking to begin with. But for certainly for towns along the Waterbury rail line, and then for Bristol as well, Please keep an eye out. You'll get more information from him. We certainly want to make sure that this information is useful. And so if there's anything in addition to just the utilization rate of your municipal parking that we can help provide for you, please let us know. As well as if there's any type of analysis you'd like us to do with the data once we have it, we're happy to do so.
Thanks. Any question on the parking study? Now for Bristol, we never had a municipal parking garage. Now we go moving forward with two of them. One of them will be online in a couple of weeks, and one of them is start construction next year. But that's more of a function just of the downtown area.
Yeah, we're hoping to see those full for you. It'd be great to see them really utilized and people going downtown.
For us, everybody always asks if we're going to charge for parking. And honestly, the goal is to get people downtown before we start charging. VMT reduction priorities.
Okay, yes. So this is in response to Executive Order 21-3, which Governor Lamont signed back in December of 2021. This was really, it was an environmental and air quality update. But one of the things included in it was a requirement that the Department of Transportation prepare a VMT reduction goal and strategy. So VMT is vehicle miles traveled, a measure of the total miles driven across. The department looked at both individual days and a full year here in the state. They found it's just, I believe it's about 26 miles per person per day that get driven here in Connecticut. They've set a goal to reduce that 5% over 2019 levels by 2030. And so that's a significant number. It's just about 2.5 million miles less per day, which is well over 1 billion miles per year. So the department released their goal and their strategy back in late spring. There's a remaining piece to the requirement under the executive order, which is that they develop a list of priority projects that will help achieve those VMT reduction goals. And so to both ensure that our regional priorities make it onto that list and that hopefully our VMT reduction priorities make it to the top of that list, we've prepared a response for their strategy that includes some strategies of our own, as well as projects that we believe are important to the region as a whole. I don't know, Kevin, if a copy of that went out with the meeting packet, but I will send it to everybody today. If you could all please take a look, any projects that you'd like to see included, we would love to add in, as well as if there's any language you'd like to see us include, we'd be very happy to do so. We do plan to bring this to the full NVCOG board at our September board meeting for endorsement before presenting, before publishing and presenting up to the department as a response. As far as we know, we are the only region who's done something like this so far. I have spoken with NVCOG and Capital Region about doing something similar, but I don't believe they've done anything with it just yet. And so we'll see. Robert Bell and his team up at the department are leading this effort, and so we'll be working with him over the next couple of months to make sure that that our priorities are reflected in the state's priorities. I will send a link to that document here in the chat to this meeting, but I'll also make sure that everybody receives a copy via email after.
I guess not to get too much into the weeds, but if the metric is miles, I can see how, if it is me, I can see how through transportation reduces time. But unless you're public, transit, how do you reduce miles traveled?
Yeah, it is a really tough question. And it's, so the department strategy says it right out, and it's true that they only have so much influence over it, right? The length of your trip is generally not determined by how you're traveling, but by where you're starting from and where you're going. And we have 169 towns who all do their own separate land use planning, and the department doesn't have much ability to influence that. So where they really do have the ability here to step in and make some difference is by promoting non-driving means of transportation. And so it's making it easier and a better experience to take the train or ride the bus. It's building out complete streets, especially near our downtown areas where we have a mix of uses and higher density development already, so that it's easier for people to walk walk or scoot or bike or whatever non-motorized form of transit or transportation they choose to take. Across the country, more than half of all trips that are taken are less than 5 miles, and a good number of those are less than 1 mile, but we still drive for most of those because our streets are designed for that. And so, especially actually every one of our towns has at least one of their main downtown streets as a state road. And so implementation of complete streets elements on those roads, making it safer to bike or scoot and more comfortable to walk or roll. Some of the things that the department actually has control over that they can do. And then, of course, for longer distance trips, it's providing better bus service, better train service, making that a more viable option for people who would prefer to not drive, but have to.
Thank you. Any questions on BMT reduction priorities?
Just to say, Rich will be presenting the same information to, the board, the mayor's first selectman in our September meeting. So, this is something we're gonna be continuing to discuss with everyone. So, just be aware, you could always get a question from your mayor that he's heard about it and want more information about it, so.
Yeah, and we don't intend for this to be like a one-time, one and done type document. We want to do regular updates to this so that there's always an easy place as Rob and his team are working toward that goal for 2030, that they always have easy access to our regional priorities as they pick the statewide priorities.
Who's the best contact for like bus routes and mass transit for NVCOG?
Like here on our staff?
Yeah.
That's going to be Joanna going forward. Actually, I don't know. I don't remember if we had discussed this at the last TTAC meeting or not. But Joanna Rogalski, who has been a senior regional planner with us here for a while working in land use, has joined our transportation team and is going to be taking on the transit side of things. And so she'll be a good contact for anything transit related, bus, train, ADA service and dial-a-ride services.
Not to get sidetracked with, Bristol issues, I just bring it up because potentially other towns have the same, issue. We're in the process of adding a whole bus route. And there was actually it got canceled, but they were gonna drive the proposed bus route today. Maybe I'll reach out to NVCOG next time that's rescheduled and see if something with NVCOG can attend.
Yeah, that would be great. No, this year was one of the first in a while that there's really room for bus route expansion in the budget that passed. And so we're excited to see that, and we're hoping it's the first of many. And at least a few of our communities will see new routes or expanded service because of that.
Any questions? If not, going on to legislative updates. Drew?
Morning. So in direct response to the things that were discussed by your board last time, we've done a little bit of homework and a little bit of work regarding lot SIPs, for instance. I know that that's kind of been a long time request that we try to work with the department on how some of that is administered. So we're going to continue to do that and try to work with the department to see if we can get some of the funding mechanism and eligibility items changed. In addition to that, we've been working with specific communities on the Aquifer Protection Program, which you mentioned as well, and trying to assist them with kind of getting into, closer into compliance. Please reach out to Rich, and then he can connect you directly with who, and staff wise, if you do need some assistance getting that in order. And then in addition to that, went to CCM and brought our legislative concerns that you guys brought up last time to them to try to see if they would organize maybe a statewide conversation revolving around some of those issues related to transit and transportation and the things you brought up, which are aquifer protection, lot SIP, OSTA, and the local bridge project specifically. So I kind of talked to their legislative liaison on the transit side and encouraged him to try to rally the troops and see if we can get just at least a conversation going, so that if it comes time to advocate before the session starts, and get with the committee chairs and say, hey, these are some things we're hearing from throughout the state. I just feel like that would probably be more impactful than if it comes from the 19 people in this room, the 19 communities. So wait and see what comes with that, but I'll keep you guys updated as that goes along, and if it's an email to let you know that there's gonna be a meeting or something like that, we'll certainly get that information out to you.
And just one more quick thing I want to throw in there. Pam, I'm not sure if there is an update you can share on the department's progress on red light and speed camera, what that process will look like for towns.
Actually, I'm a day early to this meeting. I'm having a briefing tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Our legal office is working with OSTA on it. We're required to provide guidance to municipalities on selecting locations and how to proceed with this program by January 1st. So from what I understand, we're scheduled to meet that deadline. And our intent, once I get this briefing, I'd like to brief the COGs, and then we'll go to CCM and cost as well. But I don't have a time frame yet, but I think we're pretty close to issuing the guidance.
Great, thank you.
Problem.
Any questions on the legislative matters? Updates? If not, a active transportation plan, Rich?
Yeah, so we've spoken about this once a little while back. We have had a couple of starts on it, but thankfully we have the resources now to really get it going and really get it done. So one of the things we would like to do is put together a kind of an advisory working group regarding the active transportation plan. Elliot Wareham, who is going to be part-time on our staff while he's getting a master's degree in transportation planning, will be continuing work on this project. He is getting ready to publish a public engagement schedule for it. And so we would certainly love to have, as much input from your communities as we can get. But we also want the technical advisory on it. And so if anybody on TTAC, or if you have anybody on your staff who you'd like to recommend to be on that group, please let us know. The other thing is we're just about to publish our webpage for this project. And so we'll send a link for that to everybody. Again, the key with active transportation planning is we can put concepts together, we can put ideas together, but none of it means anything if it's not what the communities actually want or need. And so it's all about building coalitions and getting engagement from residents and from visitors and users of those types of devices to what they really need and want.
And also with that, on the advisory committee, what we're also really going to be trying to work on is getting people from public safety. So it's not just the planners or the engineers, but we need somebody from the police departments, because they have an insight that's going to be valuable on as we go forward too. So that's going to be the concerted effort to make sure we get somebody, a couple of representatives from public safety.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially if your police departments have officers on bicycle. Of course, we'd like representatives from every police department, but if you have officers on bike, that would be fantastic.
Now, if you are looking for something, like that, maybe it'd be helpful if you just maybe email the representatives on this TTAC in a format that I can forward it to our, police chief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, we wanted to introduce it here and just explain and answer any questions before we send something out. But Elliot does have a formal invitation together. He'll be sending everyone.
Because again, I think if you send it, to this group, and then we contact our PD,
Right.
probably increase
Exactly.
the response. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Any questions on active transportation? If not, community planning, staff introductions.
All right, good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, Savannah Nicole couldn't make it to the meeting today, but I just wanted to quickly introduce some new staff. We have two new community planners who are in on this meeting, and I'll let them introduce themselves. I'll lay down at the end.
Hello, I'm Molly Johnson. I'm originally from Northford, Connecticut, and I am one of the new community planners, and I have a master's degree in environmental management. So very excited to be working with NVCOG and getting to know all your amazing communities. Hi, my name is Emily. I'm the community planner here at NVCOG. I'm from Shawn, Connecticut, and I graduated from UConn's Masters of Public Administration program. And I'm excited, to learn more about these projects and see where I can offer my support.
Oh, thank you. Well, good luck with NVCOG. I'm glad you're
Yeah,
on
so
board.
just a little bit of what I think Savannah Nicole would have said if she were here. We've always had a little bit of land use function as an agency, but it's always been fairly limited. And so one of the things we are doing with the expanded planning dollars under IJA is setting up a community planning division. And so this division will work similar to what our transportation planning unit does for transportation. They will serve as that technical resource for land use and building offices. So Savannah Nicole has been meeting with each community's planners and will continue to do so. But we're excited to have this as a new offering. It'll allow us to do much more kind of multidisciplinary planning across the units, and so that we can provide better services to each of your towns.
Thank you. Environmental planning, MSW, recycling update.
There, everybody. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fabulous. If we could just go to the next slide, please. Okay, so I know Erin has been giving you guys the MSW updates, but I am the boots on the ground who's always working on it. So I figured I'd come here today and show you some of the latest numbers. So these are the latest results. We have the data as of August 21st for the trash reduction pilots, also known as the SMM, Sustainable Materials Management Grants from DEEP. So the numbers come from DEEP's consultant, Waste Zero. The municipalities in our region are Ansonia, Seymour, and Woodbury, as you can see from the little arrows here. Middlebury is also in our region, but because they're only a few weeks old, we do not have data for them yet. Seymour, as you can see, is also rather old, but does not have data. That has been a bit of an ongoing situation with them. We've had some complications, but we are promised a report on that data next week. So there's a couple of interesting things to note here, and I'll, of course, be happy to take questions at the end. But you'll see that Deep River and Woodbury have very low contamination rates in their food scrap bags and pretty high food capture rates. And these two are transfer station drop-off programs. And that's sort of what we're seeing here, is that compared to the curbside co-collection programs, transfer station drop-offs are much more successful. And I think that's kind of logical. People are thinking a little bit more about their trash. It doesn't disappear from their curb each week. They're bringing it there. They're putting it in the dumpster, and they're maybe thinking a little more about it. We also have some really good numbers in Stonington and West Hartford. So those are collection, but they're not co-collection. They're separate collection for the food scraps. So co-collection is where we put the, orange and green bags go on the same truck and then get separated out later. So a couple of different programs here, but I think we're learning a lot. I'll also note that Stonington's, very low contamination and good numbers here likely reflect the fact that they've had, a 30-year-old unit-based pricing or pay-as-you-throw program that complements the food scrap diversion. Finally, Ansonia and Seymour, two of our programs, have both decided to end their pilots and not pursue long-term programs. NVCOG is now transitioning to support Woodbury as they start to enter their decision-making phase by meeting with municipal commissions and stakeholder groups. And additionally, we have 3 engagement events planned for Middlebury. Like I said, that one's just getting started over the course of the next month. And I'm sure you have questions, so fire away.
I think my main question is if you can just can you email that to us?
Oh, sure. Yeah, maybe Kevin or Rich, if you could hook me up with these email addresses, I'd be happy to send that to you.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, we'll send it along when we send out the draft minutes from the meeting.
Wonderful.
Any questions for Christine?
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for the update. EPA climate pollution reduction grant? Mark?
I think, or did Aaron want to go through?
You can go first if you want.
Okay, yeah, because I'll be real quickly. The climate pollution reduction grant program is a program put out by EPA. And funding was allocated directly to the states to do a project, program, as well as the largest 69 MSAs throughout the country, MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area, basically based on county boundaries. In Connecticut, what happened was Bridgeport, Stanford area was, given some money. The Hartford area was given some money. New Haven MSA got their money because other states had decided not to accept some of the money. So in Connecticut, we have our 3 large MSAs in the state doing this work. Because of the size of Connecticut, of course, we're all trying to coordinate and work together to, make sure everything is green. And we hope to actually, because of our economies of scale and working together, we'll actually come up with a much better document. What the program is to do planning activities to identify how best the state and the regions can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and trying to reduce, our carbon footprint. Our region is sort of a unique situation in that we actually are in parts of all 3 of the MSAs. Bristol is in the Hartford MSA, Shelton is in the Bridgeport Stanford MSA, and the kind of goldish color on the map, most of our big cog towns are in the Haven MSA. So we're going to be working with the South Central COG as a sub-awardee, because we'll be working together because we have quite a few of our towns are in that MSA. But in Hartford and Bridgeport Stanford, we're just sort of coordinating because we only have 1 town each, but we're going to be participating pretty carefully, closely with both of those. The 4 northern towns in our region, actually it's 5, I guess, sorry. They're not in any MSA, but they're going to be covered under the state program. So all towns are going to be, the whole state will be covered. And we're just about getting started. Our agreements have been signed. EPA has signed off on our work program. The timeline is really pretty tight because the first deliverable is March of next year, which is a preliminary identification of strategies and actions. So a lot of work has to be done pretty quickly. One of the other key items is doing a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, which we've all signed on to hire a group up out of the University of Massachusetts to do that for the entire state. So instead of each of the MSAs, contracting with different people, we've all decided to work together on one agency to do the greenhouse gas emission. And that's all. Christine, Christine is going to be sort of being the lead at our agency throughout this whole program. So she's going to be coordinating with the other COGs and deep on this and overseeing the whole program over the next few years. Anything else you would like to add?
Not really. Just to say that it's I know our towns are kind of scattered. The way that they sort of divided this maybe works great for other states, but is a little messy for Connecticut. But rest assured, even if you're like, Shelton in the pink down there or Bristol in the green up there, you're still part of like NVCOG and CROG that are working on these robust plans for you. And if you have anything in particular that you really want to see incorporated into the plans, you can always shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat here, and happy to talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of our main tasks. We'll be reaching out to all our communities to try to identify what they want to see put into this, what they think is actually something that's doable and will have some impact. So, so we will be reaching out to all our communities pretty consistently, often enough.
In what entity in Mass is?
University of Massachusetts. I forget the exact name.
Amherst.
Well, it's in Amherst, but it's one of the departments that handles
Oh, it's yeah, like for, you know, resilient metro communities
Yeah.
goal or something, yeah.
So the professor will be leading it and then using graduate students to actually run the analysis for it. It's going to be a little bit more cost effective, and like I said, we were able to get deep. Actually, is deep part of that or just the 3 MSAs? I think it's just the 3 MSAs, you know, all agreed to hire the same entity to do the greenhouse gas emissions. So
Is this an update or is this the first time this has been done?
well, Deep has been doing emission calculations, inventory for a number of years. So this will be, yes, an update, but it may have a little bit, because we're looking at more of a MSA area, it's gonna have a little finer detail to it. So hopefully,
I guess my point was, if you have the report that this new report is gonna update, can you forward us all, everybody?
yeah, we have the current emissions inventories from Deep.
Yeah,
We
so-
can forward that, yeah.
Any questions?
What kind of actions and strategies are you?
Well, it's a wide range of things, because it's all sectors, and we're not talking just about transportation, although transportation is a large, but it's all sectors. So it could be a wide range. Some of the things in transportation is gonna be, how we can, you know, use public transportation, reduce VMT, as Rich mentioned earlier. But, you know, it'd be in like the energy sector, what types of fuels that will be used to generate electricity. Pushing for more solar generation, things like that. Kristen, you have any other?
Yeah, I would actually
Well,
just point out two things that sort of can't be part of the scope. So one thing is that this doesn't focus on carbon sinks. So something like carbon capture technology or preserving open space because the trees will gobble up some carbon. Like that's not really the scope of this. The other thing this isn't for is for adaptation. So if you wanted to reduce your impervious surface to prevent flooding, or if you wanted to set up cooling centers for extreme heat, that's adaptation as opposed to mitigation. So this is strictly about creating less or fewer greenhouse gases in the first place.
In this first deliverable is to identify some preliminary ideas of what to do. So I mean, that's, you know, what we're talking about is going to be part of the report that's going to be due in March. Have a little bit better idea of this is how much is being generated in each of the sectors, and then coming up with some ideas of how that can be reduced. So, and unlike some transportation related pollution, which are a little bit more site specific, where you have hotspots. A lot of what we're talking about with reducing greenhouse gases is more area wide. So that's why they wanted to have it done on an MSA or in statewide basis. So because something that's implemented, you know, in the, we say in the Haven MSA, should have an impact of the entire area and actually for the state as well. So because it's much more of a wide, area-wide issue than site-specific. But we'll keep you posted as we move forward. Strategies.
Any more questions from anybody? If not, NRG trail priorities update?
Yeah, so our region was really successful this past year in applying for recreational trails grants. We got a bunch of money and a large portion of the rec trails funding that was out there. There's now $20 million over the next 2 years in the state budget for that program. So, you know, looking forward to that program, which we really don't have any details on yet. We sort of assume that there's going to be another round either this fall or next spring. So with that in mind, we're updating our Naugatuck River Greenway Trail priorities document. Last time we did it was in 2021. We've funded a bunch of construction projects. We've gotten a couple of projects built during that time. So it's time for a refresh. So the goal is really to highlight municipal priorities as well as regional priorities. So, you know, we really want to get, you know, municipal priorities incorporated in this so that, you know, when you guys are putting together applications, you have a little bit more ammunition, you can point to this document and say that it's also a regional priority. So right now, we've sort of updated a lot of the information on here. We've updated the map. We're gonna share it with the Naugatuck River Greenway Steering Committee, next Wednesday at this time. So if you are, if you're an NRG community, you know, we would request you come to the meeting next Wednesday to talk about it. And then we'll be, you know, updating and, you know, getting whatever you guys want to see in there. The thing that we have not really included in the past is regional projects that might be important, like signage or, you know, management plans or things like that. We can certainly consider those. And, you know, we're certainly, you know, we'd like to hear ideas about, you know, other trails that might be regional priorities too. So, you know, let us know in the next few months and we can, you know, certainly work with you to make sure that we can highlight those somehow to help you get the funding this fall or spring. So I'll send out, you know, once we show this to the steering committee and have a draft ready for dissemination, I'll get it out to the TTAC and we'd love to hear comments and suggestions.
Pretty up to, any questions? Guess what's the next section that's gonna get built?
So the next big section that'll probably get built is the Waterbury section that's funded under RAISE. So that goes from Eagle Street to West Main Street right into downtown. It's probably gonna be the most complicated and expensive piece too, but you know, it really shows that that's, you know, the fact that the city got such a big grant and, you know, it's really a priority. So, you know, I think that'll be, you know, one of the big dominoes that falls, I think, because it's really gonna, you know, show up what the Greenway could be.
And we're also hoping with Watertown, the section from Branch Brook to Route 262. They got a rec trails grant to finish up the design of that section, and once that gets designed, you know, free up, it's been sort of looked at for lots of funding. So once that design is completed, lots of funds have been allocated to it, and then that would open up a short section in Thomaston that we already have design plan and lots of set aside, but it's on hold. So you know, that hopefully those will go soon too. Okay.
And I'll just mention also that, you know, in the past, rec trails has been about $3 million to $5 million a year. And now with $10 million over the next 2 years, you know, it's really been looked at more for planning purposes and design in the past. But I think with that much funding available, and I think it's a discussion we need to have with Deep is whether or not they consider, you know, actually doing construction projects on multi-use trails with it. So it'd eat up a bigger chunk of that $10 million, but I think, you know, I think the demand is out there to fund some of these things.
Okay. Any questions or? I guess before we go on to adjournment, maybe we can just go around, you know, with the towns and, you know, see if there's any topics of interest that they would want on, you know, future, you know, agendas. I would say from my perspective, one of the things, I just came back from, you know, APWA, you know, and, you know, certainly a very good conference in general. But I would say that there was a lot of information on, you know, electric vehicles, you know, and some of the, you know, regulations that are coming down that really seem to start in California and work their way across, you know, the country. As a director, actually pretty scary, you know, I guess from an environmental point, yeah, you know, pretty, you know, progressive, but, yeah, I came back and told my fleet manager that, you know, Bristol doesn't plan on being on the cutting edge, but you can't put your head in the sand, you know, that stuff is definitely coming. You know, I don't know if on a future meeting, we could talk about, you know, electric vehicles and maybe get somebody in, you know, to talk, but that's, you know, a potential, you know, item.
You're not just talking about charging stations, but you're actually talking about converting your fleets to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just put all the towns on the spot and ask them what they want on next, meeting agenda. Since Roy is here in person, Roy, anything?
Saved by the bell.
Tell your wife you'll call her back, yeah?
Sorry, I missed the other part of the meeting. Has the lots of funding logjam been resolved?
In terms of,
Actually funding lots of projects now?
no, we're still moving ahead. Rich put together a financial plan that, I mean, we're still pretty much running, below our capital program. It's likely we may have some issues, maybe next year or 25. But we're also hoping to get some projects closed out, so the money that, is sort of sitting in the town can be put into the program. We're still proceeding, without any kind of, first, we're accepting applications, and looking at it and stuff. So right now, we're still, moving ahead. There isn't really a logjam per se. We have a lot going on. We have 13 done and 9 in construction, or 7 in construction. 9 under construction, 11 under design, so we got a lot moving. But right now, we still have enough money to cover it for the next couple of years.
And as we go forward, if things get to the point where, then maybe projects have to get prioritized, that could happen, but we're not at that point yet.
Now, the one big issue that's, everybody's aware of is, the inflation of projects have, been pretty high over the last couple of years. Hopefully that's not gonna continue and we'll sort of adjust and, we'll get stable again, but we had that problem with the Rubber Avenue project in Naugatuck where the low bid was 25% higher than what we had expected. And I think we're gonna see that going forward in the next couple of years, that, the low bids are actually a little bit higher than what we anticipated. But, we'll adjust.
Okay, well, I'm sure Ray will be happy to know we want to pull the lots of project for CMAC. There was some CMAC funds left over, so the DOT decided to fully fund the CMAC program. So they blew out all the those fiscal restraints.
That news kind of came at a good time because Rubber Avenue, and that kind of, a little bit of a wash there, so that was.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that decision, but I think it was good, and it helps you guys out, it helps the program out.
We did have a conversation with Mark Burns yesterday up at the local bridge program. It turns out that just what you alluded to, their project costs are coming in much higher than anticipated.
Yeah.
Essentially, their pockets are empty right now. So they are accepting new grants, so, actually, we were asked to pull a Great Brook culvert, application, and resubmit. So that's, interesting. And that's about it. We got some lesson learned on the Naugatuck River Greenway that we'll be sharing with you as far as the section that we did open. Security has been a huge issue down there. So much so that we're looking at retrofitting cameras and mile markers and a lot of things, which could be significant expenditures at this point. We haven't figured it out yet. So, and we're also the city is spending a lot of money on our traffic signal upgrades. Traffic cameras is going to be a huge non-participating cost in all of our projects going forward. So the mayor is hot on security, so and so many other communities, we are having a problem with quads and dirt bikes and, those packs and that sort of thing, so we're trying to get a handle on it. The mayor recently announced a bounty program actually on the TVs in the city, which kind of a sad state of affairs. So.
Sorry to hear about the security issues.
Oh, sign of the times.
When you say security, it's mostly because of ATVs and other things on the trails, or is it other security issues?
The general sense of unease down there in the dark unlit portions, but also the ATVs. And on South Main Street, as expected, we have people that think that the Greenway is another travel lane. And they are in fact going to and fro over the trail using the snow shelter parking, digging things up and that sort of thing. So we're working our way through it.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody else? Anything else for her? Jim, you on? Anything?
So, and I know I brought this up before, CHRO, and paving. So the town put in a request to authorize a project, I don't know, 3 months ago. And I got this lovely letter, from CHRO, basically saying that, hey, they haven't heard anything from me regarding that project. Well, the project hasn't gone out to bid yet. So I'm good, but I'm just letting anyone know that they're starting to look at the LoCIP funding. And when payments are made and when payments are requested, they're connecting the dots and making sure that they have their CHRO paperwork filed. So just fair warning. And then Karen also,
I'm sorry, that would be a good topic for a future agenda. Can we get somebody in?
Absolutely. Could definitely do that.
and then Karen, can you resend me that email about the project closeout?
Yep.
And then other than that, I'm good.
Anything else?
Yeah, Ray, I'm sorry. I've got one quick other. It came up after we finished the agenda here. But one of the things that IJA requires is that the department put together a vulnerable roadway user assessment. And so we've seen both at the Bike and Ped Advisory Board meeting last week and then at a COG coordination meeting yesterday, the plan that the engineering office is putting together for it. One of the things they're looking for is vulnerable roadway user safety strategies, suggestions from the towns. So we'll be sending something out in a couple of weeks once we have a little more information from them on exactly what it is they're looking for. But they have to submit the initial version of the VRU assessment by the middle of November of this year. So if you have strategies you're using to protect pedestrians and cyclists and other vulnerable road users that you want to see included in the statewide plan, please let us know. You know, they're looking for as much as they can get.
Okay. And I know what Oxford and Thompson is on. Anything for them?
Brian here, kind of add to that, we're seeing a lot more requests or information on complete streets. So I'm putting together a policy for at least the town of Seymour. But it'd be nice to see if or hear about any success stories or implementations of projects that have gone through a complete streets or just a project that has all sorts of type of modes of transportation. Any kind of success stories are out there.
Yeah, we can sort of put together, because we do have some examples that we can provide. And also, as part of our active transportation plan, we are putting together a complete streets policy for the region. And that will lay out some of the ideas of how to put one together and, you know, when it makes sense and what to include and things like that. So, yeah, we're also working on that as part of the active transportation.
Yeah, I mean, what drove it was we're seeing in a couple of the grant applications just a checkbox. You know, do you have a policy in place? Whether or not you implement it or not, you know, is another thing. But at least having the policy seems to have some weight.
Well, I mean, we've noticed, just in a lot of our lots of applications, I mean, most towns want to include some elements of complete streets. You know, whether it's some decorative lighting, you know, along sidewalks, better sidewalks, granite curbing, curb extensions, things like that. And so we're seeing a lot of it in a lot of our projects. So,
RFBs or.
RFPs, things like that. So, no, most of the towns are looking at trying to include some of those in. Yeah, so that's why I said we have some good, we could probably pull together some information from projects we've completed.
And the department did just put out all new guidance for their own projects. And so I'm sure there's good information in there for individual town policies and plans too.
Great.
Thanks.
One of the things we get a lot of pushback on, a lot of requests for are these speed humps, speed bumps. You know, I'd like some definitive answers on who, what, where, when, why when they're appropriate, when they're not. Because right now it seems like in my opinion, my humble opinion, it seems like these decisions to install them are being made by politicians rather than planners and engineers. And we're starting to get more and more pressure to put them virtually everywhere. You know, now the prospects got them going in, some of the other areas. It's getting tougher to explain why they're not appropriate. You know, so we need some
Guidance, yeah.
we need some guidance or help. How do we install them? When are they appropriate? When are they not? You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so to that, we actually are just getting underway doing a like townwide policy on that First Selectman Smith out of Beacon Falls asked for. And so we'll have a bunch of documentation together already, and we can talk about doing something similar or just sharing what we come up with for them. But he's running into the issue where he put a couple in, people don't like them. Some people really like them, some people really don't like them. And so he is at the same time getting complaints about what's there and getting requests for more of them. And so rather than just respond to each one individually, he wanted to have some kind of overarching, this is what we do, these are the options that are available. You know, I think there's a lot more out there than just speed humps for speed control. Some better, some worse. They, you know, all context sensitive, but it's worthwhile to take a more comprehensive look rather than just respond as requests come in.
So in Bristol, I tried to be proactive. Like 6 months ago, a year ago, I went to my board of public works and I said, you know, we're gonna get requests. At that time, we had no active requests. You know, and I even commissioned a study that I think VHB did. You know, it wasn't much, you know, it was, you know, like $7,000 or so. And you know, ultimately, the Board of Public Works, you know, solicited, you know, input from, you know, fire and, you know, PD, and you know, did not, you know, approve a program. So, you know, now when we get requests, and I just recently received a request probably 3 weeks ago, you know, you know, the answer is that it's something that our Board of Public Works evaluated, you know, chose not to move forward with. For what it's worth, you know, I can forward, you know, through NVCOG, you know, what, you know, we produced, and even probably my last, you know, responses to a, you know, to a resident, you know, on the matter, you know.
So you don't have any in Bristol?
Huh?
You don't have any in
We
Bristol?
we do not have any in Bristol. I would also say that it's an interesting thing that, you know, how they, you know, track you know, you can use iPhone, you know, you can use phones to get, you know, phone data, you know, they also use it for speed. And I saw an interesting, you know, study, I don't have a copy of it, where they said you go over a speed limit based on, you know, phone, you know, data, you speed up immediately afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, we found doing some initial work on this is that speed humps, and the only real valuable version of a speed hump is if you do it as a table with a crosswalk over it, because people slow down while they go over it. But otherwise, that's exactly the problem. You know, you go over it and then you end up going faster after the hump than you did before.
You know, one of the challenges for what I did through the Board of Public Works is when a resident talks, typically they, you know, come at you like, you know, Public Works and impediment. But really, if you look at, you know, what I did, I supported it from a public works perspective, or at least let's word it this way, I thought it was tolerable. I was not gonna be an impediment to, to humps, but by the same token, and it's not a negative thing, PD, was probably the most, vocal against it, That doesn't mean when I communicate to a resident, I'm a good guy, PD's a bad guy. It's more like, the process was, we got information, at the end of getting all the information, I support the board's decision and not moving forward with speed bumps, But I'm sure it will keep on coming up.
And one of the other issues that keep coming up, and again, I don't know if we have any studies on it, is on streets, the inappropriate use of signs. We got a lot of requests for slow children, blind pedestrian, with one leg on crutches, that sort of thing. We get a lot of weird, or signs that are no longer approved by the NVCOG. I didn't know if there was any regional policy on that or guidance aside from the MUTCD.
Yeah, I haven't looked at any or seen anything, like you said, other than the manual. When it's appropriate.
Yeah,
to
we'll
put in.
probably, we could put something together when the new MUTCD comes out, which is only a couple of months away. But we don't have anything currently, no.
I do, I'm sorry, I have one more comment, and for those of you online, Desmond Blanchard with NVCOG Communication Community Engagement. So I just wanted to share that NVCOG will be hosting a lunch and learn on Thursday, the 28th from 12 to 1 on the topic of Americans with Disabilities Act. So we know that earlier in the spring, the department had sent out the compliance assessments to the towns, and there was some concern for looking for further education on it, what's required from the towns in terms of transition plans and things like that. So we worked with the department and also worked with Connecticut Training and Technical Assistance Center, known as T2. So we're going to be having that lunch and learn. We strongly encourage you guys, planners, engineers, public works. Karen raised for us that some of the towns work with consulting engineers, so I'll also invite them as well to come out. It is a federal requirement under Title II, and we really do want to help and get that information to those of you who need it. And we will provide you a free lunch. So it's gonna be fun. There's gonna be an interactive portion where you'll get to use the ADA toolkit. We'll go outside, we'll test it out, and you'll really get your hands dirty. Just kidding, you won't get your hands dirty, but you'll get to get a feel for it. So I will send that information to your emails after this meeting.
Okay.
And likewise, on October 25th, we'll have a lunch and learn on GIS solutions that NVCOG provides, be in person and virtual. Any of your staff that uses mapping or data in any way, do that in attend.
Okay.
And we'll include all those dates in the minutes, so you don't have to remember them.
If there's no other items, a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
thank you for your time.